So what's more likely? Is it more likely to be a civil war, or is it more likely to be a World War III? Is there one of those two predictions you guys made that one is more likely than the other?
I can't say.
Okay.
And it's not because I don't discuss that in detail in the book. What I say is, like in the 30s, you wouldn't have known. You know what I mean? Even as late as 1939.
Yeah, the Barbara Walters thing.
I'll tell you when America's mood suddenly changed on World War II. We began to say we're going on to World War. It wasn't Pearl Harbor. It was about 16 months earlier. It was the fall of France. That was it. The fall of France. We thought, my God, in World War I, they held out for 4 years. I mean, they fell in 3 weeks. And because France was completely divided between left and right. And by the way, preceding the fall of France came a national popular front to keep the fascists from taking over France. Did you see the elections in France last week? Mm-hmm. This is the
28-year-old guy that's a far-right guy that
he's the older one. The younger one, you're talking about the guy in his 20s.
28 years old, yeah.
Yeah, but he's the one who's serving under Le Pen. And we don't know yet whether Le Pen's party is going to get an absolute majority and whether they can have their own prime minister. But here's my...
That's the 28-year-old.
Yeah, Jordan Bardella. And he's amazing. He's sort of unflappable. He's cool. He's immensely popular. Certainly more popular, I think, than Marine Le Pen. But here's the point I'm trying to make. They organized a national front of leftist parties to keep, Le Pen's party from getting in. And they organized under the name of the Popular Front. Mm-hmm. When was the last time that the left all organized together under the Popular Front to keep the fascists in? 1936. I mean, that was Léon Blum. It was when the Spanish Civil War was going. They made, huge appeasements to Hitler, and we saw what happened. My point is that France fell in 3 weeks, and it was after that fall that suddenly the opinion started changing in America. We passed the Two-Ocean Navy Act in July of 1940, just after the fall of France. It went through Congress with not a single opposition vote. This is one of the biggest armament bills in American history. It doubled the size of the U.S. Navy, laid the keels for the Iowa-class battleships, the new Essex-class carriers. If we had not made that investment then and waited until Pearl Harbor, we would not have been able to win in the Pacific until 1946, 1947. I mean, think about it. These are the things in time that matter. This is actually what sometimes worries me, is that you can't tell how the fourth turning is going to move, but sometimes individual investments made early can make all the difference in how it later turns out. I think about that when I think how, we're running out of missiles, running out of ammo. We'd run out of Patriot missiles in 6 hours in a war in Asia. We'd be just out of them, right? Who's manufacturing them? Who's declaring the emergency to say that we're completely unprepared for conflict? Nobody.
What is the actual process for states to succeed, to become their own countries? What is that? What is the actual process of that?
When you're in a knife fight, there are no rules. You realize that, right? I mean, there are no rules. There's no process for breaking the process. No, there's no process. And particularly after the precedent set by the Civil War, I mean, it's just assumed that that's unconstitutional, and there would be a war to be fought for it. Secessions, and I point that out in the book. Secessions in long-established states, long-established nations like the United States, never proceed peacefully. I mean, you can go back and try to look for any example you want. They never proceed peacefully. There's never an example of a large, long-established nation having a huge, significant group break away and have that happen peacefully. I don't think it's going to happen this time, certainly.
Which states have the strongest military? We know Texas, Fort Worth, they got a bunch of them, right, in Texas. But what states have the strongest military that if they did do that,
But here's the point. That actually becomes a casus belli. I mean, think about it. I've worked with all the branches of the military, particularly because all the stuff I do on generations, because everyone wants to know how to recruit millennials. I've dealt with the U.S. Marine Corps now for 25 years. And you know what question they now ask me? If California becomes a sanctuary state, you know what I mean, kind of secedes a little bit, just starts drawing its own rules. I run Coronado Naval Base. You know what I mean? What do I do? But you know what that draws up again? Fort Sumter. I mean, we have a precedent. That's exactly how the Civil War started. The federal government had a fort in the middle of Confederate territory. That's what triggered the war, Patrick. I mean, that was the opening shot. So there's an issue right there. What do you do with military assets? What do you do with federal assets in seceding territory? But there are a lot of other issues too. What do you do with people who belong to your side who are on the other side of the secession? What do you do, for instance, if Texas secedes, red zone state? What do you do with Austin? You know, a blue zone bullet in a red zone state. So what happens to them?
Where do you live right now?
I live in West Virginia.
Do you know what state has the worst military in America? I want you to take a wild guess, according to Statista.
You're talking about a nation or a state?
State, like a state. Rob, can you pull this up? Most active duty armed forces personnel by state. No, I sent you the link, Rob. Just go on the link I sent you. I want to see your reaction to this. And please don't get upset at these stats, because I don't want you to be offended by these stats. Let me know once you got it, Rob. Okay, so at the top, California is number 1. Okay. You got Virginia, Texas, North Carolina, Georgia, Tennessee. Florida makes it in the number 6. Expand all the way at the bottom, Rob. West Virginia. What are you doing living in West Virginia if shit hits the fan? Come on, Neil. Can
I tell you something, Patrick?
Tell me.
Everyone around me owns 10 guns. I mean, I have never seen a more armed camp. And by the way, they're all serving. Half of them are serving in the military. They're just not based in West Virginia. They don't need a base in West Virginia.
Yeah.
You need a base in Connecticut. You need a base in Illinois.
You know what would be interesting, though? What's the better question to ask? To ask the question of most privately guns owned per capita? Is that the right question to ask? You know what I'm asking, right? I want to know, like, who is like, I know Idaho is going to be up there. Who do you have as, okay, Wyoming? That makes sense. Do you see it, Rob, or no? What is it? Let's see okay, Montana, I get it. Go a little lower. Wyoming, Alaska, Oregon.
West Virginia, right up there.
There you go. Makes sense. West Virginia and Idaho. But yeah, okay.
In these uncertain times, if there's anything we need people to believe the future looks bright. So if you've heard about me saying this mission to you, we're on a mission to get 1 million people to wear this gear. And this is what we're doing. If you buy one of these hats, there's a category of buying one hat, getting the second one free. If you haven't yet worn this gear publicly, go ahead and test it out. Buy some of the gear, wear it in public, and see how many people will stop by and say, you also watch Valuetainment? You also follow PBD Podcast? I do too. Place your order. Go to vtmerch.com. Click on the link above or below. Place your order and represent the VT and the PBD Podcast gear.
So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click right here.